All right. Welcome to the Men Above Reproach podcast. We made it. Episode 2. The system tried to hold us down, but it couldn't. It couldn't. How you doing, Ty?
Who's the system?
It's the system, Ty. Don't ask questions. They'll come for you.
I think it's the technology obstacle that Grant had that took the assistance of his wife. That's
But
the
we're
system.
here. We are Men Above Reproach.
We are here.
So, yeah, we are Christian men, and we do various challenges throughout the year that push us physically, mentally, spiritually, and relationally. In this podcast, we'll discuss the good, the bad, and the funny from these challenges. And through this podcast, we hope to inspire other Christian men to seek out their own community that will challenge and grow them to also be men above reproach. Do you guys know what it means to be is the word men above reproach, is that like a Christianese, or you think that's kind of like common, like, oh, you're above reproach? Or is that just a Christianese term?
I think it's more so used in the Christian environment and culture. But if you take a step back and think about it, just as any day-to-day person, even if you're not a Christian, to live above reproach is probably something worth aspiring to be.
Yeah, my wife was just like, oh, you should explain above reproach. And I was like, should I? But maybe we'll dive into what it means to truly be above reproach. Anyway, in this episode, we'll dive into the challenges and the electives we did from January to April earlier this year in 2024. The previous episode was a whole year long, so that was more of a bigger episode. But this one, we're just covering 4 months, maybe go a little bit deeper into discussion. But overall, it should be a good time. So in January, our challenge was to read the 4 Gospels. Hi, what do you remember from January?
I remember we all failed.
I did not get the job done in January. I got one. I read the book of Mark. I didn't get all 4 Gospels read. But it was cool to even though reading through Mark and you see different themes and just how that book it moves really fast. It's just action packed and highlights the miracles of Jesus and what he did here on earth, and just how each author writes kind of differently from a different perspective is kind of cool. But yes, I didn't get them all read, but it was still valuable. And beside the fact, so
did you just go with Mark like that was your first one, or are you gonna go John, Luke, Mark, Matthew?
You know
Just threw a dart at the board, whichever one it landed on.
That's the gospel.
Actually, my memory is coming back to me now. I actually I did Matthew and then I did Mark. I didn't get to Luke and John. So I read through 2.
Gotta update his points.
Yeah. Ty, did you, I guess I got 2 also, and that was like a stretch because I was like 4 Gospels, and we choose January. We like to choose like a really good goal that either pushes us or gets us going for the year. And we're like, what's better than just to dive into the Bible and read the 4 Gospels? And then you're like, these are pretty long accounts with very thorough, historically accurate, but long accounts. So I remember I had to push it pretty far just to get through Matthew and Mark. Also, I remember, Ty, you're like, yeah, I listened to it. And I was like, the goal was to read
you listened to it.
No. I read it. Last year, I listened to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I listened to Matthew. I read John. But
okay.
Yeah. We're getting legalistic on it.
Yeah. For the record, though, when I listened to the Gospels last year, it came to light in like a whole different way, because when you listen to it, it's like a story. It's literally a story. They're accounting the story of Jesus, and I was listening to it and I was like, wow, this is so powerful. Like, yes, you get one aspect when you read it, and I think you can kind of immerse yourself a little bit more when you're reading it. When you listen to it, it's like a story, and it really painted the Gospels in a new light for me. But yeah, as I said, I got 2 Gospels in, and not 4.
It's like if you have at the scene of an accident, you have witnesses, that will give a testimony from what they, police will ask, the investigators will ask the witnesses what they saw. And so if you think of an intersection and there's a person at each corner, they're going to see a different view or see maybe interpret what they saw differently from maybe what somebody else saw. So I feel like you're seeing that from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're all seeing different viewpoints of Jesus and sharing that and sharing the truth of what they saw.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things when Lee Strobel did his like investigative research, going from an atheist to a Christian, found to be more compelling was that when you have these 4 different perspectives and more beyond that, but just within the gospel, and they are just a slightly bit different depending on where they were at when this thing happened, the perspective that the lenses they saw it through, that actually brings more validity to it than if all of their stories were exactly the same to the T. And he spoke with like attorneys that would go through, just like in the courtroom, whenever they have someone up on the stand testifying, if they have several people testifying and the story is exactly the same to the T, it's more than likely, okay, they got together, talked about how this went down, and they all stuck to the script. Whereas like if there's some variation, depending on how things went down and what happened, where they were at, their different life perspective that they saw this lens through, that brings more validity to it. And so, just like you were saying, Grant, it's cool to just see all the different perspectives, though we only got to see 2 because we didn't read all 4.
We'll get around to it, right? No, we've read the Gospels. We've read the Gospels before.
Yeah. Well, John, that's just, I think, a really good one to start with too. And I was going through it with a buddy who is interested in getting more involved in his faith. And so I'm trying to witness to him through John. And that's why we read it together and disciple him in that. And so for anyone out there that's looking for a good place to start, I think in the Gospel, John it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm going through the Bible with someone that just wants to get started, they say the book of John. It's a little bit easier to digest than Genesis, even though Genesis is the first. The book of John just
a bit.
You want to dive into February if there's anything? You want to stick on to anything else that stuck out from the gospel readings?
I don't have anything else on the Gospels. But as far as the electives go, February was a vacant month for us to choose to do electives if we wanted. And I guess the rules to our like challenges are you don't have to do any electives in the month that's vacant. You can kind of do it whenever you want. And so, I mean, it was pretty easy for my wife and I to hit this first one, which is walk, is it 20 or 30 miles?
20 miles.
20 miles.
20 miles.
Yeah. And so walk 20 miles outside. And it has to be intentional walking. It's not like you can just start your Garmin or Apple Watch walking around your work day or whatever. It had to be intentional, therapeutic walk time. And so my wife and I take our dog for a walk every day. We were in North Carolina at the time. And so super easy to hit this one. And so I hit it in January, which I kind of made a joke to the rest of y'all because it was like -4 degrees with 3 feet of snow here. And it was like 70 and sunny where I was. Like, you guys haven't hit this one yet? That's the only elective I've done. So we hit that in January. And I don't know if you guys, I hadn't looked to see if y'all have done that one yet, but I really loved just that intentional time with my wife. And that's really where we get most of our good, deep discussions, no distractions. So I thought it was fruitful and edifying.
Yeah, that's great, Ty. Well, I haven't gotten that elective done. It is, it's so good. Morgan and I we try and go on a walk, once or twice a week with the girls after dinner or something, if it's nice. And it's just so nice to get outside and it's just enjoy time together as a family. And obviously we can't do it just her and I right now since the girls are so little, but it's still a profitable time. We get outside, we get some sunshine, and it's always a refreshing time. So good for you guys.
Yeah, if you claim to
I
do it in
did,
the next couple of months, I'm gonna need some proof, some pictures of you in your puffy winter coat.
Yeah.
do it. You
Go
can
ahead,
knock
Levi.
it out in October. Just walk one marathon, then you're done.
And you could say you completed a marathon.
There you go. 2 for 1. Marathon is not an elective, for the record, and no bonus points for it. Negative points if you do a marathon.
Only for Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the elective walking. Also, I did it in April, but since you were talking about it, it's just like 20 miles. Like, that's not that far, but it takes consistent effort unless you're just going to like do a ton in a short amount of time. But I think the initial goal behind it was, yes, like there's a health aspect, but it was actually more that relationship aspect. Because when you're just walking with your spouse or a friend or anyone like that, just conversations come up, and that's like where you just like get to know each other better, and taking that time to do that. And I can get on my soapbox a little bit. Yeah, go Ty, but I'll jump on my soapbox.
I was just going to say,
walking,
or between you and the Lord, it's good prayer time. Just to reflect and think, and how could you have maybe done a little bit better that day in witnessing or glorifying God? How can you be more obedient? Just thinking through things like that. Where can you turn over sin in your life? It's just, like you said, the same as walking with a friend or your spouse, more intentional conversational time between you and the Lord, if it's one-on-one too. Just didn't want to discourage anyone that's watching. You can only go with your friend or a partner that you can go on your own, and really take advantage of it if it's in a prayer aspect as well. Get on your soapbox.
Well, you kind of led into just some of the benefits outside of just like the relational aspect. But I actually did a health like blog post essentially about walking. And for the record, I'm like a sprinter and a lifter. So walking was like low tier fitness. And anyone that told me like, yeah, I'm like, what do you do for working out? And I do personal training. I'm like, what do you do for working out? If they're like walking, I'm like, so you don't work out. And now I was like listening to a lot of other podcasts that spoke pretty highly of walking, and it helped change my perspective of it, because walking has so many benefits, and I'll kind of like rattle them off. So like one that I like is just digestion. Like they say 5 minutes of walking after a meal just like helps with digestion. Like that's simple. That's super easy. 5 minutes. Just the thinking aspect or like the prayerful aspect. Like we're so used to like always having like stimulus in front of us or something in front of us, when we just like walk without like noise or music or just silence, like allows us to think. And then I think that slight amount of like movement also promotes just like how we think.
Screens and electronics and stuff, maybe just like not having those in front of you.
Just like time away. And then this one, as a lifter, you're like, oh, cardio is like terrible for if you're big into lifting, but walking doesn't take away from lifting. So I'm like, that's good. Like you can still get some aspect of movement and maybe active recovery without taking away from lifting. Still burn some calories. This is
get that hybrid athlete.
You guys think of hybrid
circadian
athlete, rhythm. You guys ever think about your circadian rhythm?
Not since I had my son 3 months ago, but so yeah, I'd love to. Go ahead on. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I never thought about circadian rhythm but then I listened to a sleep podcast by Andrew Huberman, the Huberman Lab podcast, and he talked about it. And I was like, oh, like the light from the sunrise and the light from the sunset do something to set your circadian rhythm. So it's like, dang, if I can get sunlight and sun like in the morning and the evening, that like helps with sleep. I'm still going, guys. I'm sorry. There's a lot of benefits.
Wait, I have a question. on that.
Yeah.
That's if you walk like during sunrise or sunset, or just getting sunlight while you walk helps.
Kind of both. You don't necessarily have to walk, but being exposed to sunlight in the morning and the evening like helps your body clock like realize like, oh, it's time to wake up.
That makes
sunrise
sense.
Time to wind down. But like naturally, instead of maybe just like standing there, you could walk a little bit.
Okay.
This is a little counterproductive from like the quiet that we talked about, but theoretically, if you needed to, you could multitask. You could call somebody on the phone. You could text, check emails. But otherwise, there is the de-stressing side, and it's just low impact. A lot of people, you guys are getting older. Your backs hurt, your knees hurt. Not me. I'm good still, but low impact. And then just the communal, the communal aspect. So walking, it's just a good thing. Just find time and do it by yourself. Do it with others. Take time to talk to the Lord. Talk to someone else. So that's my elective.
Yeah.
I did the 20 miles in April.
Yeah, Morgan and I, we went for a walk at one of park at nearby park after a date night the other night, and it was just like one of our best conversations we've had in a while. It was a beautiful night, and it just reminded us of our dating years, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and just was such a, like you said, just really refreshing spiritually, and I feel like we connected. And it was just good for our marriage too. Made us strong. I felt like we had conversation that made us stronger and brought us closer together. And I felt like I also got to know her better, even though we've been married for 7 years and been dating for 10 years now. It's just cool to get to know your best friend, your spouse, in a deeper, more meaningful way by going on a simple walk. So, but for my elective, I actually did something different. One of our electives is make an extra $500 on the side, and so this was something that kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it, but I actually didn't. I told one of my church friends, he's got 2 boys or in his life group. He wanted me to do some like spiritual and physical training with them and just kind of mentor them and pour into them. And he said, I'll pay you. And I was like, no, you're not going to pay me. You don't need to pay me. I love your boys. They're great kids. I've gotten to know them over the years through when I used to work at Explosive Edge. And then when I helped with the youth group at church. So they've just been cool to watch them grow up. And he's like, no, I'm going to pay you. You're not winning this argument. And I was like, he's like, you're giving your time and expertise on the training side of things. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to argue. So I was looking forward to just serving in that way because I love helping young people. But it was really cool. We did about 5 sessions where we just do like 30 to 40 minutes, just physical training, teach them just the fundamentals of movement, whether it was squats or single leg lunges or some upper body and core, whatever it was. And then finish the last 30 or 45 minutes going through the book of Colossians. So we did about 6 sessions and went through the book of Colossians. And it was really cool just to hear their interpretation of the scriptures as we work through Colossians, just to see their heart for the Lord. And it reminded me of when I was their age, of how I had older people in my life who poured into me and really meant a lot to me when I was that age. And so it just was such a privilege and an honor to be like, man, I get to, I'm thankful
pass that torch on.
Exactly, to the next generation and be a blessing to them. And they were a blessing to me too. So that was my elective for February.
Yeah, that dad was like, hey, I'll pay you 300. You're like, how about 500? Because I need to make 500 to win this challenge.
Oh, we know Grant. He had that invoice written up right away. I'll pay
No,
you. Yeah,
no.
you will. Nah.
Yeah, no, it was 150 a session. So
dang.
So you did
Side
just
hustle
enough
for
sessions
days.
I'm just kidding.
So, all right,
No,
so
nice, dude. That's cool that you were obviously you were just doing it with a good heart, but like you made some money, you got some arbitrary points for the Men Above Reproach challenge. You're doing well.
Yeah, I literally told him, I was like, you really don't need to pay me. You don't. I love being with the kids, and he's like, no, I want to pay you. So I was like, okay, that's I'd do it for nothing. He's like, I know you would, but I was glad to work with him. It was fun. It was really beneficial. So,
And for the record,
That's
this
super.
might be the the hardest challenge because we all have jobs and families and obligations. So trying to find a way to make $500 extra, like doing something you don't normally do, like I do side personal training. I'm like, I can't count anything physical related. So I'm like, can I sell like cookies at a bake shop? Like, no, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to make 500. So I
Right.
actually,
Yeah.
as of
That's a good
last
point.
week, I found out how I'm going to make 500. So
Let's
I'll
hear
have
it.
to talk about it later. Fully legal for the record.
Okay. Only
Keeping
you
it
would
under
need to
wrap.
disclaim that. We wouldn't have been worried if it was Grant or I.
This is true. This is the men above reproach. We never don't have to even provide that sort of context because we are
Yeah,
men
we
above
shouldn't.
reproach.
Yeah. Grant, did you, out of curiosity, did you end up sharing with the father that you got, like, you accomplished this challenge with us?
I don't think I have. That's a good question.
I
I
bet
might
he'd
have
be
to next time I
super
talk to
pumped.
him.
Yeah, just now, like
Yeah.
not since it's after the
Right.
fact. I
Yeah.
bet he'd be
I
like,
don't
"Oh
think I've
man,
told
that's
him.
perfect."
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll have to give us an update next episode if you do.
I will for sure.
Let's go into March. We did no sweets. This was a good
Hold
one.
on,
I
real
thought,
quick.
but
I have a question. I want the audience. You got yours, and Levi or Grant had his, and you've got yours coming up. I have 2.5 months to try to figure out how I'm going to make an extra $500. So throw me some business ideas, put them in the comments, and shoot me a text. We'll make a business deal. Help me earn this $500 so I can beat these two nerds.
Maybe you can do some cleaning for somebody. Cleaning service, Ty's cleaning services.
What does that come to
Pass.
mind for you? I can't reach the fan.
He can't even clean his own house, let alone someone else's.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that. Look at that mess. Yeah, I don't know, Grant. You need a cleaner?
No, I'm actually doing. I bring that up because
okay.
I'm doing. I'm doing another, hoping to get another $500 through helping my Morgan. We're doing some family cleaning for my dad at his office. So
How about
okay.
you
I didn't know he
delegate
was
that
hiring.
Yeah, I could have used the $500.
Mm-hmm. Don't trying to be a good brother in
All
Christ. Come on, dude. I've got a newborn, just 2 months younger than yours.
All right. So in
Okay,
March we
go on
did
to the
no
sweets.
No sweets. I like this one.
this was a good one.
This was good. This was a good. Yeah, I liked it because if you kind of make rules like, oh, let's eat less sugar or less candy or anything, you kind of like still dabble with it. Just chop it off and say no sweets for the month. I honestly thought that was just like super helpful for me, and also realizing like you guys weren't doing it. And I know a lot of times we try to like make each other stumble in friendly competition. Like I remember I tried to like get Grant to eat some sweets or something. I don't know if we were at a get together or a party, and I was like,
Yeah,
Grant, you want that? I think I put some M&Ms inside your burger. I was like, that's minus 5 points, Grant. No,
it was something crazy like that. I can't remember.
So I really enjoyed this, but I'll let you guys speak a little about it because I'll have some other thoughts.
Yeah, for me, the first week was really tough. I love a good like chocolate chip cookie or a monster cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie, and that's kind of like my go-to. And Morgan, my wife, makes some really good chocolate chip cookies. So that first week was tough. I was definitely feeling the withdrawals. But after I got through that first like 5 or 6, 7 days, I was good, and it was easy after that. And so my body felt less lethargic. I felt like I had more energy. I was working out, getting ready for the LCS alumni basketball tournament, which is a big deal around here. And so I felt great. That was kind of my motivation. I want to be in tip top shape, and felt leaner, felt stronger, and helped me play some basketball well too. So that was kind of my motivation behind it. And it was cool too. Like, it was just a reminder, like it reminded me like, I don't need sweets all the time. So it was good to just kind of take off from it for a month. But there was definitely times where I was like, oh man, I kind of like to have that cake at a birthday party or whatever it was. We had a couple of events in March, so had to hold off.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like a big thing is like the need. Like we don't need it. Like there's certain things in just like life where like, oh, I crave it. I almost like need it. It's just like we don't need that. Like to get to the gospel, like all we need is like Jesus, and that's like probably over spiritualizing. But like sweets and stuff are nice. We don't need them, especially if we're trying to live a healthy lifestyle. They're nice, but it's not like a necessity. And the biggest thing I learned from this challenge was like the improved like willpower, like just being able to say no. And it's like, oh, willpower is kind of a muscle that you need to work. Like if you're struggling with willpower or like fighting temptation, like practice building your willpower in areas that are a little bit easier, because it's to some degree a little bit of like a skill set or a muscle you can work. Because I remember like throughout the month I was like, no, I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that either. On the flip side, when the month ends, don't be like me and just like the no challenge is over, let's go all in. But it was really interesting to see the willpower side, because that was not the initial aspect. It was just kind of like, no sweets aren't healthy, let's just do this challenging goal. But I do also feel like I was a little like, you're at social settings and people are like offering desserts and you're like, oh no, like I'm too good, I'm not doing sweets. Like it kind of made you feel a little superior, which wasn't the goal either. But people are also like, oh yeah, like cool, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure plenty of people were like, wow, you're superior to me because you didn't eat the sweets I offered you. No, I bet if anything, those scenarios probably are like, huh, this is a fit athletic dude that doesn't eat sweets. Maybe it's something I can learn from. I bet that was more of the reaction, which is a positive one than the one that you thought happened.
Yeah. Hopefully more exemplary than anything.
Exactly. For me, I didn't have as many, I don't know, life-altering thoughts about this one. I'm not a huge sweets person to begin with. It's still hard at times. But I'm like, I love chips and salsa, and that's my go-to. But there was some challenges, and I agreed with something both you guys said about it. Grant, about how it was hard, especially like the first few days. I almost felt like this, and then you said about like it being a mental willpower thing. Almost was like a prerequisite to the fasting that we'll talk about later, a later challenge. But it was like, it was pretty hard at the beginning at times. And then like you kind of get over the hump, and then it just gets like you can kind of coast from there. But really good, like Levi said, as a mental toughness kind of discipline challenge, to just saying no to something that you typically probably have several times a week at least. I did think it was funny and slightly annoying that Lauren had me try some unique cookie or something that she had, and I wasn't thinking about it and sent it to the group, and there was no grace or mercy shown. All that was thrown back at me was like, oh, she's like even the apple, even the fruit. Super annoying. So I had points deducted because there's no mercy shown in this challenge. But we're trying to hold each other accountable and be men above reproach. So that's how we do it. Got to sharpen.
That's right.
So I lost points on this one, even though it was probably one of the easier ones for me. Slightly annoying, but good. I need it.
I like how Levi said about the willpower. I feel like, yes, it's a physical challenge, but it also bleeds into the spiritual, in terms of building spiritual muscle and fighting temptation and not just being passive. We want to be active in how we are continually living out our faith and saying no to the temptations that the world's is constantly throwing and bombarding us every day. So yes, definitely love how Levi talked about like just how we can build that willpower mentally in the spiritual areas as well.
Love it. Do we want to
Yeah,
do anything
especially about
else?
being proactive.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
just thought that was good. Yeah, being proactive in our faith and our walk, opposed to being reactive, and a lot of times is trying to, I guess I don't know. I can't think of a specific example where I think it's just more leisurely in our faith, and that's a tangible way that we can be proactive, like Grant was saying. Go ahead, Levi.
No, I love it. Yeah, I was just kind of seeing if there's anything else to wrap up. That was January, February, March, and April of 2024. 2 real challenges and 2 free months that we could do electives. Yeah, if you guys have like thoughts of like if you did this challenge, what would be the hardest sweet for you guys to give up or something? I know for me, it was probably dark chocolate. I just like a little dark chocolate. So if you have something that'd be like, man, that'd stretch my willpower muscle, put it down in the comments or send us a message. We'd love to hear what people are, want to kind of push themselves and go for it. Try the 1 month challenge. And
love to see it.
And if there's any last words, any good news to share before we head out, or just a clips in the a little over 30 minutes in.
Okay. Hey, should we tease the next few months challenges, or do you want to leave it a secret for the next time we come through?
Sure.
I got them up right here.
Okay, go for
it. Yeah, you go ahead. You got it.
All right, and May, we got the Pen and Baker writing protocol. If you don't know about that,
don't have to explain it.
You got to tune in. Got to tune in. June, looks like some of us did some electives. That's good. In July, 30 acts of kindness or service. And then in August, again, another elective month. So we're going to do the next 4 months. So we're hoping you tune in, hear our conversations, let us know what you're thinking. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for being Men Above Reproach.
God bless.
Make a great weekend.